right, so what you're looking at is the second floor framed up just about. We have our rear walls in. What you're looking at is getting ready for trusses. We called the crew out to obviously do our trusses. We're not going to be hanging them. And these trusses here are pretty high in the sense of how much height they are. They're about, at the ridge, you're looking at about 26 to 28 feet off the ground. And all these supports you see here are them making sure that the walls right here are perfectly straight and aligned. So when they hang the trusses, we don't have wavy walls. So there's a lot more bracing than what we did, as you could tell, but they did a really good job. So they'll be getting this up here, we believe, by today, and then they're going to be putting these trusses in here. And there they are. These are the lower trusses for the upper part of the building. As you see here, they did the same thing down there, stabilizing it. And we were pretty good. We were within 1.5 inches on our measurements. So what that means is where this side here had to be 16 feet from this point here, we are 16 feet, almost exactly, maybe 16'1". And on the other side, out over here, we were 16 feet 2 inches from this point here all the way running to the end there. 16 feet 2. That's not bad for a family, I guess. Not too bad. We are very square. We are almost identical when it comes to the sizes from front to rear. So we're more than pleased with this. So let's see what happens and see these guys get to work. All right, literally in about 45 minutes, they got all the trusses on the left side of the building. So this is kind of what we got going on here. Fascia going up next, fascia that we're working on. Okay, now, so what we did, to clarify, so we did not frame the front of the building, the front upper end gable hayloft. We did that so we don't have a crane, as you could tell. These guys are hand jacking these trusses up. They're not that heavy, but what we did is we couldn't get the crane in time. So these trusses right over here, which are not that big, they're 16 feet wide. And let's talk about a truss real quick while I got you here. So these trusses are just a simple truss, and they called an attic truss, particularly because we had this right here beefed up to a 2x6. It could have been a regular 2x4. We had it beefed up to a 2x6 because we want to use this as some attic space. There's not much, as you could see, but you can't really stand up there. But we wanted to beef it up anyway, in case you crawl up there. It didn't add a lot to the cost. And so we beefed this up a little bit. But these trusses here got to go up there. So being we do not have a crane, the best way to do this is to use our tractor and lift them up. We can get them almost just about to the bottom of the floor, and they can probably tilt them up on their side, and then we can drag them up. I'm not sure how they're exactly going to do it, but then they could pick them up and carry them up there. It's going to be a trick because we have that cross bracing. So I'm not sure exactly what they plan on doing, but couldn't get the crane today. And this is really the only one we would maybe need the crane for. Now, cranes, just to give you kind of a little background story on cranes. So this building is 52 feet deep. So from the front to the rear, it's 52 feet. And you notice way up there in that hayloft, all the way in the back, if you had to put a truss up there, it is a long way. It's probably, you're talking about the height plus the distance, you're probably talking 40 feet, maybe 45 feet long from the front here all the way to the top rear. You can also come in from the side, which is true, but still you have a pretty good reach. So most cranes you can rent, they're not really cranes, they're lifts. They will not do that. They will not cover the distance. So you have to get a crane. Well, when you get a crane and a crane operator. That exponentially increases the cost. In my area, the cranes start with the operator at about $150 an hour with a 4-hour minimum. So it's quite costly. You can spend $600, $700, $800 on just one day with a crane here. So these guys are real experienced framers. They said they could do it, and that really helped save us some money. So well appreciated to them. They're really hard workers, and I really appreciate how good they are and how fast they are. So anyway, that's kind of the story where we're at. Give you an update shortly. Believe it or not, we finally have a roof on. Well, not really a full roof. We have the roof framing, which means that we can dry it in, which means that now we're at the next level of completion of this barn dominium. So let's take a look at what we've got done here real quick. We have our trusses up, the OSB sheathing. Now we used OSB on here. Most people will use OSB because of the price. By the way, OSB has gone up almost double in the last 2 weeks. I don't know. I have no idea why that would be that way. 2x4s and everything else seem pretty consistent. But for some reason, OSB, I guess there was a bomb at the OSB plant. I don't know, I'm just guessing. Who knows what the reason is, but OSB has gone up. We bought most of our OSB prior to the increase. It went from like $10.89 a sheet to almost $20 a sheet within like 2 to 3 weeks. So whatever. But we got our sheathing up, our OSB up there. Our guys did a good job. Now we still have the middle that isn't quite completed yet, but typically what you have going on here is you have to brace the walls. So let me show you that real quick. Okay, so we have our bracing up. I wanted to show you real briefly what's going on with the bracing and how to properly brace the structure. So the reality is we need wall bracing prior to the roof trusses being put up. The bracing is what holds the walls perfectly straight. Now before our guys put the actual trusses up over here, what they did was they ran a string line to make sure that wall is straight. It doesn't have any curves in it. Once they have it straight, they secure it with bracing. This bracing goes from the floor here all the way to the bottom, all the way to the top. It's the very top plate, and it braces the wall, and they have it braced in a number of areas. They do this to hold it steady while we're installing the trusses. Very important, because you don't want it, obviously, the walls to be wavy. It affects your walls. It also affects your soffits outside. It can make them go in and out and look like a real hokey job. So we definitely don't want that. These are nailed in. Then what we'll do is actually we're at the point now where we're taking them down, where you'll probably see us doing that as well. We're removing the bracing as well, because we're going to reutilize the 2x4s for some of our interior framing. We're going to be doing that in a little bit here in a minute. Let me show you upstairs real quick. All right, so right now we're at the top floor. You may see tons of bracing up here because this is really at the top of the building, the highest point, a lot of wind. We have some bracing sitting here that's bracing up the walls. They put our trusses up here, but you can see, well, we don't really quite have it all sheathed in. And that's the reason, because I ran short on OSB sheathing, which that's another thing. Make sure you have enough, but sometimes it's hard to calculate when you don't do this every day. So we did get the sheathing. We have it downstairs. Our guys will be back on the weekend to finish that up. And if you take a look out here, you can see they did a good job. Now I want to show you real quick. They put these clips on. You may know that. These clips are real important on OSB. Why? Well, because 7/16 OSB is kind of thin, kind of spongy. These clips hold them together so you don't have a lot of gaps. So they put these plywood clips in, and they do a good job. Very common way to frame this. Again, we used OSB. This is a barn. Would you do it on your house? Maybe. I don't think it's a real issue. Some people want to use 1/2-inch plywood, which is a better product, absolutely. But I don't know about you. I'm not interested in paying all that money. So it could be a whole lot more. For what reason? Do you ever see it? Probably not. I don't think it's worth it. The OSB seems fine. But when it comes to doing this, right after they get this sheathing up, they obviously have the wall straight. Right after they get the sheathing up on the actual roof trusses, these supports can go. Now we have strength. Of course, we have our end gable wall in. That also will obviously hold the strength, but also the trusses at the top hold it straight as well. So when you're looking at the structural integrity of a building, you're looking at, of course, the trusses holding it. The plywood, I think I mentioned on a previous video, the plywood or the OSB paneling is the strongest way to keep that building straight. So by far, so that's the strongest. So anyway, we're gonna go downstairs right now. We're gonna frame an interior wall that we have to get done. So we're gonna get that done. I'll let you guys take a look and watch that. We'll talk to you soon.